You've heard that. This 20-year-old red ball.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 13th School Committee meeting. I call the meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. And the first order of business is the approval of the June 22nd minutes.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Ms. Stout.
On the amendments that I made, there were 3 of them. 2 of them indicated what had been proposed and then what the change was. And so I'm just asking that the 3rd one, which was about the Wellness Committee's recommendation, be stated how it was and how it changed. You know,
Have wording to put in there?
it was stated that the Wellness Committee would make the,
District Wellness Committee will recommend updates for modification to the wellness policy based on results of annual school health index.
it didn't say recommend, it said will make. And so I'm just asking that it say whatever it said before, will make, and it was changed to will recommend, just like the other 2.
That's what it did change to.
I know, but if you look at the 2 other minutes, they both said what originally was there and what it was changed to, except for that one didn't say what it was originally and what it was changed to, but just what it was changed to. So it doesn't make sense what it is.
Slip in there, or do we need a formal amendment?
I think you need a formal amendment.
We need the actual wording.
Know if the wording
I don't
needs
have my wellness policy with me.
All right, it said will make.
So we need to, what would you like added into the minutes? What is the wordings that you want added? Do you have the wellness policy with you?
I don't.
I don't either.
Can we just make amendment that says whatever the original one be put in there? Barbara will know what it is.
Well, I know, I'm just looking for a formal amendment to the policy. I know that we all know and we can find it from what we had, and we're amending the minutes, so we need an amendment to the minutes, what
Okay.
you wanted to say, other than pull it from.
Then it should say, rather than make the amendment, make the proposal, will recommend. Or just, you could just say that I added the word recommend.
It does say that, Sharon, is that what you're talking about?
I could,
No, she's looking to, I understand what you're trying to do, I'm just trying to make sure that we're doing it the right way. So if I understand correctly, Ms. Bauer, what you're trying to do is you want the original wording prior to your amendment made in the minutes, or written in the minutes.
right, that way you understand minutes are to reflect, especially when they're amendments, what was and what is, that's all. It's
I
just me.
have it.
Do you have, that would be great,
Oh,
thank
good.
you.
Do you want me to just pass it over, or do we need to read it? Or?
You can read it out loud, that would be great. So you
Okay.
want, so Ms. Stout with Ms. Ryder's original copy from last
Fabulous.
week.
Yes,
Okay, so what I have is the District Wellness Committee, this is the policy as it was before this modification.
Correct.
The District Wellness Committee will update or modify the wellness policy based on the results of the annual school health index and triennial assessments and so forth. So it's that first section.
So, Ms. Stout, you would like to add to our minutes that you move to amend the revisions and updating policy section on page 4 from what Ms. Ryder just read
Yes.
to as follows.
Yes. I think that should be done every time we have an amendment.
I would agree. We should have the original in there. But just like I said, we're trying to make it other than
I
just
appreciate
pull
all
it
the
from
help.
where you
I
have it.
do.
Okay, so any other further discussion on these minutes?
You need an amendment in a second.
Well, we can vote as amended. Yes?
Okay.
You okay with that?
I'm
I'm okay with that. So can we have
Yes.
a motion and a second with an amendment? So we move to approve the minutes as amended by Ms. Stout. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And next up is public comment. Is anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to recognitions. And I have a recognition before we start. We have Ms. Richardson, who has gratefully decided to join us on her birthday of all days. So we all like to wish you a happy birthday, Ms. Richardson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your dedication.
That is some extreme dedication. I don't think I would be here on my birthday. And further recognitions, Mr. Carpenter.
In your packet are two recognitions of donations received. First, we received $600 from the estate of Richard O'Connor to the Harwich Elementary School for the Wilson Reading Program, and then a donation of $125 from Cape and Islands Workforce Development Board for the robotics program at the high school. So thank you to both of those, the estate of Richard O'Connor and also to the Cape and Islands Workforce Development Board.
Okay, thank you. And so we will move on to our reports and discussions. And our first order of business under that category is the high school handbook. And I believe we have Mr. Alamo.
In your packet, you should have received a memorandum, double-sided, which highlights our changes, and also, I believe you have a copy of the full handbook. We have very few changes this year. We have our routine dates, names, those type of changes. But in terms of new items or revised items, we have three. The first is the Jawsome Hour, which will appear on page 6 of the handbook. As you know, this is a brand-new, exciting initiative that the high school began in March, piloted that, and met with a lot of excitement and success, a lot of positive comments about that, so we will be continuing with that for this coming school year. We thought it wise then to put an explanation in our handbook as to Jawsome Hour. We have a little description with the purpose of Jawsome, the length of the Jawsome Hour, what student choices, what options are available to students, and we also provided an explanation of the academic overtime, which teachers can encourage, highly encourage students to attend by giving them a pass, and the expectation is they would come during Jawsome Hour to get some extra help, make up work, whatever is in order for that student. We gave a few bullets of possibilities for academic overtime, and then we summarized at the end with the goals of Jawsome Hour. So we thought it's very important as a new initiative to include that up front in the handbook. Along with the introduction of Jawsome Hour, there were a few items we needed to change the wording on. I didn't include them because they're not really changes. It's just spin-off from Jawsome Hour. For instance, in our food and drink policy in the building, previously it said that food and drink was only allowed in the cafeteria. But with the introduction of Jawsome Hour, students now, during that 55-minute block, can eat in the cafeteria, or for any portion of that, they can take their food with them, go to a classroom, other parts of the building, to do whatever they needed to do. So we just reflected the food and drink policy to reflect that food and drink will be allowed in other areas of the building, except for carpeted areas. We made that clear, and we clarified that with the student body as well. Another slight change was to the detention policy, the central detention. Now we call it JAWSOM detention, and instead of being after school, we run JAWSOM detention during the JAWSOM hour, which has been extremely successful. Previously, with after-school detentions, you're competing with students who work, students who are involved in extracurricular activities, or students who just really don't want to stay after to go to detention. But if it's built into that JAWSOM hour, it's an easy win. It doesn't conflict with much, and students will attend. Our attendance rate for detention went way up due to scheduling it during the JAWSOM detention. And there's various configurations. It can be for the full 55 minutes. It can be for the half. We try and work with the student to work around any commitments that they have during JAWSOM hour. So that was the other tweak that was related to JAWSOM hour. The second is grading guidelines. We have not had anything about grading in the student parent handbook. Last year we started with a committee that looked at homework, and they came up with a homework policy, and last year we inserted that in the handbook. So the companion piece is grading, and we had a committee this year spearheaded by one of our teachers, Leslie Baker. They met throughout the year, and they came up with some grading guidelines. There'll be continued work on this. They're guidelines. It's not a formalized policy yet. They're strictly guidelines. So that committee will reconvene this school year then and add a little more meat to the grading guidelines and formalize that. But we thought it was important to put something in the handbook right now. The last item is in the athletic handbook portion of the handbook, and I'll speak to that since the athletic director is not here tonight. Recognition of seniors, students that are seniors. This has always been done, it just never was written into the handbook, so we're just formalizing an informal practice. If teams wish to honor their seniors, that needs to be a planned recognition, and it needs to be collaborative by the coach, the parents, the students, the players, and it needs to be held near the last scheduled home game of the season, and a pre-game recognition brief, 15 minutes. So we, the athletic director wanted to make sure we had that in the handbook. So that's another inclusion. The last thing that you won't see, but thank you, Ms. Richardson, because she had emailed us some questions, some clarifications. And in doing that, when I was reviewing sections of the handbook, it brought something up in terms of the athletic portion. There was a question about eligibility or ineligibility academically. So when I was reviewing those sections, there is a heading on page 50 that says dismissal from a team, and there are 6 bullet points under there. Half of the bullet points deal with dismissal from a team, but the other half really deal with periods of ineligibility, where due to various reasons, a student would be ineligible for 14 days, for whatever the time period may be. So what is in the handbook is accurate, but the heading could be tweaked to make it a little more reflective. So we're changing the heading from dismissal from a team to dismissal from a team / ineligibility. And that would be it for our handbook.
Any questions regarding the handbook changes? Ms. Richardson looks like she's,
Just for my own understanding, back to the JAWSOM hour.
Yes.
Detentions.
Yes.
So someone who's receiving a detention can serve it during the JAWSOM hour.
They would serve it during the JAWSOM hour. We're not doing them after school. But we would work with the student. We have flexibility because we run it every day. So if the student needed to work with the teacher that particular day on Monday, we'll say, fine, you go work with the teacher. We'll do it on Tuesday for the detention.
All right, I guess that's what I wanted to know, that there's flexibility there.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility. And in fact, with the younger students, the 8th and 9th graders, The Jocelyn detention, in many cases, is not assigned for the full 55 minutes. It's assigned for half, where a student would do detention for half, and then if they had an academic overtime with the teacher, they would go visit the teacher. So there's a lot of flexibility built in that to work with teachers and students and different activities that are going on.
Thank you.
Ms. Ryder?
I have a question, it's actually for Scott. Under the district administration section, we have Mr. Birchfield as the Director of Technology. Is he not the Director of Instructional Technology?
Correct.
I'm sorry, it is instructional technology. We'll make that correction. Sorry, Mr. Birchfield.
Any further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And next up on the agenda is the Monomoy High School School Improvement Plan. And we have Mr. Burkhead.
Thank you, Ms. Scott, school committee members, Superintendent Carpenter. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, honored to be here tonight to share an update on our school improvement plan. I think we were extremely successful in accomplishing many of our goals this year, and they were very impactful, as I look forward to sharing with you tonight. And I'm also excited about the work we still have to do, which is a lot. You know, it's always our strive to be great, and I think a lot of the steps that we'll share tonight have really moved us in the right direction. And I'll share a little bit about where we intend to go from here to part of the presentation. And I'll be happy to answer questions as appropriate. Okay. Moving this person over. You may talk amongst yourselves while we figure this out, please. Must have some good beach stories by now. Thank you, Jim. That was very instructional. Appreciate that. So this is the team here. It was an impressive group of people. We meet quarterly. However, there's a lot of homework that's done voluntarily to prepare for upcoming meetings, research, input, back and forth. We do Google Doc sharing. So there's a lot of, in this current world, using technology to communicate is huge, and these parents are all, and teachers are volunteering their time, so it was an impressive group to work with. You see we have good representation, 2 teachers, 3 parents, a community member, Mr. Keenan, who's a former principal, our student president, and myself. Okay, so the way I set it up is basically how it's set up in our document itself, and added links to the evidence so that you were able to access these. I'm not going to read every one, but I will highlight. I've got a notes section on the right to just kind of highlight things, and where appropriate, I'll share some links here and there to kind of highlight some of the evidence that we have. So the first one is the focus area is curriculum instruction and assessment, engaging, appropriately challenging, and interdisciplinary curriculum. This was a huge challenge for us, developing challenge and measurable 21st century learning expectations for all students. And we completed that. We'll be going, we'll start our work next year as part of the NEAS, the New England Accreditation of Schools and Colleges, which is a 10-year process, which unique to us because of the merge, will begin next year, a self-study process, where if you're not familiar with it, an outside group of professionals comes into your building after you complete a thorough self-study of a group of 7 standards, which are research-based and outstanding. And those folks come in and spend 4 days, basically living here. They're here several hours a day, visiting classrooms, talking to people, and basically whatever you put down in your self-study, they're just assessing whether that's actually happening, and they come up with recommendations for improvement and accommodations, similar to the state report. So in preparation of that, one of their major standards is to have 21st century learning expectations, which as a new school we had not yet had. So we collaboratively developed those with student input, community input, parent input. School council played a major role in this. They were included in your document along with our core values. So you'll see this thread go out through some of our other curriculum work, that we'll be tying these new 21st century learning opportunities into what we teach and how we teach it. So we finally got that guiding light in those core values established with collaborative input. So that was a huge breakthrough and accomplishment. Now we'll use these documents to guide our vision, mission, and goals for the next few years. Just to give a little snapshot for a viewing audience, this link works. Did not work. Okay, so I know this is a small font, so I'm lucky I have my contacts in, but you can see some similarities to our school, our district and mission statement. There's a lot of crossover there with some of the things, with critical thinking, creativity, curiosity, risk-taking. We're really big into that. We want our kids and our teachers to take risks and shoot big. Perseverance was a big one. To be okay with failing and getting up and keep at it, because that's what the world's all about. And a lot of these are challenges they'll face after high school in the real world. Challenges lead to growth. This is the high expectations piece that we're going to push and challenge you. When you're comfortable, we're going to push you some more, and that's where differentiation comes in. And then communication and collaboration, obviously, is huge in the workforce now and in school with kids working with kids. So we have to teach those skills. Very important. And passion for learning. The key, I guess, is to teach kids to learn, to be hungry and passionate about learning and have that fire in them to continue to learn and know how to do so. And so that's that last one. So I think that encompasses a lot of things. It seems pretty simple here, but it's broken down when you look at the 21st learning expectations that we supplied you. That's how we kind of broke it down. And then we have a rubric to measure that. That's the real great thing. So we'll be able to measure what if we're achieving these core values and these missions. So the next slide talks about developing common format curriculum. And what this talks about is that if we run 2 Algebra 1 sections taught by 2 different teachers, they should be teaching the same content. The learning experience should be the same for children in each of those classes. It shouldn't be different. And that's going to take some work. When we merged from 2 schools, we started to work on that right away, and we're continuing that work. I provided you with the math department team goal because they've started course by course, for example, Algebra 1, and they'll go on geometry. And they did a really nice job, and I consider that the exemplar. And if I open that document real quick, and this amount of work is just for one course, keep in mind, but boy, maybe I won't. Sorry about that. But you've had access to this, and you can look it up. It might help if I explain it. So there's lesson plans, there's rubrics, there's actually YouTube videos for certain teaching points. So, for example, we just hired a new 8th grade math teacher. That teacher, can come in and teach the Algebra 1 class, would have all those resources right there that their colleague is teaching in the other Algebra 1 class. Pretty impressive in how it should be done. So we're not there with all our courses and all our classes, but we're chipping away, and that's one of our big goals, as you can see, ongoing through 2018 and beyond. And that's where the curriculum cycle that Dr. Blanchard runs through with our principals and our department heads and teachers. We have a very organized, structured curriculum cycle, and that's what that means, that every 3 years you're going through a different phase of that cycle to review your curriculum and make sure it's updated and appropriate. Then the next one is collaboration, regularly during professional learning time, and that's where a lot of this work is done. Every other Wednesday we have this time, but sign of a great school is when there's collaboration all the time, at lunch, in the parking lot, at home, via email. Teachers are constantly talking about kids, their instruction, and how to improve their craft. And I gave you a couple of links. I know Mr. Alamo alluded to the grading policy guidelines. We have several voluntary committees and clubs here for teachers, because we're really big on building capacity. The more leaders we have in our building, obviously the better our school. So the teachers have plenty of opportunities to volunteer to be part of something bigger than their classroom, that they can contribute to the greater good of the school. The homework policy was one example. A whole different group of people were on this grading policy guidelines. You probably won't see that in a lot of handbooks, but we thought it was important. Basically, it's real good practice, but it came from the teachers with obviously administration involvement, and it's a real good document about, you know, how we grade consistently. Because as a parent of a son that just graduated, that was his frustration, part of mine, where one teacher's expectations were so very different than the other. And it's hard for kids to keep track of all of that. Oh, this teacher doesn't count this for homework, and this teacher does this. And kids figure it out, but it should be easier. So I think the more consistency we have in our homework and our grading policies, and one example that I liked on there was that you post your expectations in your classroom, you share with parents. Everyone should know. There shouldn't be any surprise on what your expectations are for the year. And these kids are old enough where they can go check it out. Okay, we're on Unit 3, this is what we're going to be learning. You know, it shouldn't be a surprise, nor should the parents. So that's something we're moving to, where it's a guideline, it's encouraged, but I think we have the type of culture where when we do things like this, and it comes from the teachers as part of a leadership group, and it's not a top-down, you'll do this, we've found that teachers, for the most part, participate, and I think you'll see that with this grading policy. So that's one example. The Global Studies program, which you're very familiar with and approved, was also bottom-up with teachers working collaboratively, and we're excited to start that. I think we already have over 25 students signed up for that in just year one. Very excited about it. The next one is our teaching staff will communicate individual progress, achievement. This is a new focus area, homeschool community connections. So this is parent-community partnerships in supporting of the kids' learning. A real big tool that we use is Aspen. And a criticism we had in the survey results, and just speaking with parents our first year when we started, was, the grades aren't always up there. You asked me to go on and check it. 2 teachers have it every day, and 2 teachers it's never up there. So that's a headache for a principal, obviously. You want consistency and you want that up there. If parents are going to commit to supporting us in a partnership to get on little Joey for not doing his work, or when they see that D, and we're encouraging them to do that, we need to do our part and have that stuff up there. And we weren't doing a great job of it. Last year we did a much better job because it was a point of focus, and it was brought out to the teachers that, this is going to save us, help us get parents to partner with us by having this updated. So this year what we did is we did a couple of things. We also had educational opportunities for the parents to learn how to use it, because we can't just assume that parents know how to use this complicated software to check on their student grades. And there's a lot of cool bells and whistles where you can get a text or an email if your child's grade dips below a D or a C or an F, whatever you want to do it, and some parents are really doing that, so that's really cool. So we did some educational parent universities. They were, the attendance wasn't great, so we're going to continue to push for that and get the word out there. Maybe they know how to use it, so we'll do some more research on that, but we'll continue to offer opportunities to educate the parents. As far as the teachers, we have regular teaching professional development on that. With the JOSM hour and their lunchtime on the other end of that, we found more teachers are using that time too to update during their lunch. When they don't have to, they're doing it. So I see there's also a report that the administration can print out and see when teachers update it. So we've shared that with the teachers. We sit down with them and say, we're going to be looking at this and talking to you about it. So I think that motivated a lot of people. They were doing it anyways. I think they know it's good practice. So all in all, that's a huge improvement for us, and we're very proud of that, and want to be held accountable to that, to have those grades up there. The at-risk alerts on Aspen is something really important to us. One of our focuses was to help our struggling learners that were falling through the cracks and not allow that to happen. So on our Aspen software, we have the ability to add any data we want, pretty much. The state uses something called EWIS data every year. It's called Early Warning Indicator System. And it's a bunch of red flags that would indicate to you that a child was in jeopardy of not graduating high school. And they have these, and they do them every summer, and they send them out to schools. Some schools use them, some schools don't. We do. It's very helpful. State just takes all the data, and I'll give you an example. Attendances. Kid hits over 5 or 10 absences. That's a red flag. That's research shows that they're going to be in trouble of not passing. Failures of classes is an obvious one. Specifically ninth grade. The more kids that fail ninth grade, their propensity to graduate declines significantly. So we're looking at these, and we actually put little indicators on the teacher's homepage on Aspen. And in most schools, and in our school in the past, you only had access to your own students' information. And we often talk here about being a family and helping each other. And the teachers brought up one day, well, during JOSM, I want to help, Joey that I had last year. We made a good connection, and he was great for me. And I see him, I don't know whether he's struggling or not. I can't access his information. And why wouldn't we allow teachers to have all kids' information so they could help them? So what we did is we opened Aspen up so all teachers could look at all kids' information, certainly not FERPA protected laws or any social emotional things, but just grades and attendance. We came up with our own, we called it MIWIS data, Monomoy early warning indicator system, copied from the state, took their idea, narrowed it down, made it short and simple, and we took like the top 3 indicators of failures. We took attendance, we took discipline, and we took grades. Anybody that fails. So they'll get flagged just by a data system. So when the grades go in, now I look up a child, boom, if I see that little dot on there, it's an attendance dot. I click in, it opens up to a screen and shows me how many absences they have. So if I'm working with that student, I have a little bit more information to help me help them. So that's been a real huge asset for us, and we've seen a nice bump in the amount of kids, which I'll show you in a little while with our data on the decrease in D's and F's in our school, kids failing. We've also included AP scores, PSAT, SAT, and all the other acronyms that we can test in Massachusetts are up on there. Because that's for all students, not just the struggling learners. If I've got a child in my AP class and they're struggling, I might want to see how they did on their MCAS. Oh yeah, I've got them in math. They were struggling in math MCAS. That's an indicator that this might be a tough course for them. They're going to need some help here. Well, the opposite could be true. Geez, they're the highest level scorers in the math, and they're not passing my class. Is it effort? What is it? I got to dig a little deeper. So having teachers have access to this, and we don't have to dig for it, it's on the tips of their fingers, has really been an asset for our school and for our teachers and ultimately for our students. The next one is a set of school norms and expectations for homework. I know the district is working on this. We tackled this last year. It's the third reel of education, one of them, homework. It's controversial. How much do you give? What's it count for? All that. We decided it shouldn't be, that we should attack it head on, and we did. And you'll see that in our handbook approved last year. Basically, we just point out why do we give homework? And we did that because we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just given as busy work. It wasn't just given as a worksheet, so you can say you're a tough teacher by giving a lot of homework. That's not what homework should be about. So we talk about why we give homework, and parents can read that in our student handbook. So if they don't see that happen, they can challenge us on it. So, and what it counts for. So now we had all kinds of, some teachers weren't counting at all, some teachers were having it count for up to 40–50% of their grade. And we found that inconsistency to be troubling, so we maxed it out at 20%. This was a collaborative, collective decision from the school. Again, it was a group of teacher leaders with administration working in collaboration to come up with this policy, and it was overwhelmingly supported by our teachers. Not easy to do, especially with homework, but surprisingly, there was, it's common sense and good practice, so it was supported, and it's been implemented and very successful in our first year. The next one is parent community connectedness with school by creating a booster club. I have to thank, Mr. Carpenter has done a lot of work on this. He wasn't in the summary there, he got left out, so I'll give him a shout out now. Actively attending meetings, supporting this. We had a couple of sporadic booster clubs for different teams, but the whole thing here is equity, that all student athletes are supported equally, and the unification of one booster club is stronger than multiple. And it was a really successful year. We had a good good diverse group of parents from multiple sports represented, a good turnout each time, consistency. You know, we certainly need numbers to be bigger, so this is my plea for parents and community members out there. Everybody's welcome to become part of this. Basically, it's a group that talks about, you know, fundraising opportunities to support our student athletes, but also it's kind of like a parent think tank for athletics. We listen to the parents and get their perspectives on new ideas we have or things we might want to do. You know, for example, the parents came up with, you know, some ideas with our athletic director, Ms. Gilmet, that maybe each season athletes should be expected, each team should be expected to participate in a fundraiser so that they all have skin in the game because they're getting the funding back. And that worked out very well. They all did that. They did the car wash we had. The most recent one was the mattress sale, which raised, I think, $10,000, close to $10,000. So the goal of that group is, and then every kid now, the first thing they gave back was a T-shirt for every athlete, different T-shirt for every season. So if you play 3 sports, you get 3 different shirts. Kids love them. They wear them with pride. They've earned them. You know, and it's a great way to celebrate our athletic program by those kids walking around town with their Monomoy athletic shirts that they earned. So that's going very well, but it's still a work in progress. The next category of focus area is supporting all students as learners in a safe environment. So the Josamawa was our big, you know, an example of a big risk. Not, you know, we had to go to Florida to find a school that was running something similar. Again, brought to me by the teachers. I loved the concept right away. It took over 1.5 years to bring to fruition over several drafts. We brought it here in March for the overwhelming support of the school committee. The students supported it, staff, parents, and we gave it a shot. So I included in the first bullet there an overview, the letter I sent home to parents that explained it best I could. I also had a parent evening following that letter to come and clarify anything, have coffee, talk about it. So that was that. And then we tried it in March. And I have to say, with some of the data, I hope I can get to show, because I think it's important to do this, is that in just 3 short months, we're seeing significant gains. And Josamawa only is not, you know, we can't say it's the reason for all these changes. It's a piece of all the things we're doing. But the changes were so dramatic that I wanted to, you know, share, and I promised I would come back and share the good, bad, and the ugly of it. I think the cool thing was we had a committee that met every week to kind of just get constant feedback from students and teachers and parents, and we took it all in and we put it on the agenda and we said, okay, let's fix this, let's put this fire out, let's do this. We need more trash barrels here, we got an ant problem over here because the kids are eating where they shouldn't and all this stuff, and we addressed it. And I think it was on a Friday, I never forget this quick story. On Thursday afternoon, we had the Jocelyn team meeting, and I was very angry. I was very disappointed, upset. The kids were roaming the hallways. They weren't where they were. The honeymoon was over. I was concerned that we might be losing it. And so I went on the, you know, when I brought all the great minds of the committee together and said, what are we going to do? And there was debate. Do we shut it down, send a message? Do we shut down for a couple weeks and give them another chance maybe later to have them earn it back? I said, let me sleep on it. Others said, let's give them another chance. So I got in the intercom on Friday morning the next day, and I was very specific on how I felt, that I was a bit disappointed, and something that was a privilege to them that was potentially being abused and could be taken away. I've never seen the hallways clearer than that afternoon. They were where they should be. They took it serious. They appreciate this. But the best part of the story is we never looked back. There was never another day like that where they were just out in the hallways, the place was chaotic. We never had that. So I need to be clear, very upfront with you that change like this wasn't easy. It's still not. We still have a lot to do. But there were some bumpy days. There were some second thoughts. There were, okay. But having those meetings and just trusting our kids and saying and being clear with them that these are the expectations you need to follow, they stepped their game up, so I was very impressed. And in trying this, quite honestly, in the spring of all, you know, fall would be the best time when everybody's ready to go and You know, we've got that, try it in the spring where you got, you know, the seniors coming up to senioritis, and you've got the nice weather and the temptations of, you know, and a long year behind you. I give our teachers and kids credit for doing it because they was brave to try it. And I was a little nervous when I couldn't look at the data, so I want to jump into that now if I could real quick. Fingers crossed. Okay. So basically how we broke this down, when a student would go into a teacher, we'd have a pass and they would fill out the reason they're there. Academic overtime, if you recall, is the mandated part of this. If you have a D, or we try to get C's or below, that the teacher gives you a pass and says, I want to see you tomorrow, JOSM hour. You need to go. That's mandatory, all right? Because you're not getting it down in the classroom, not necessarily where you need to be. We're going to not give you any more options. Your option is that we help you improve in that area. So we target that. It's mandatory. If you don't show, it's like cutting a class. So that's the mandatory piece. So if you look at that AOT alone, that's $13.93. That's 1,300 appearances. It could be by multiple kids. Now, each of these is, JOSM hour is an hour. What we found is that minimum is 30 minutes you have to be somewhere. Oftentimes, kids and teachers would stay for the whole hour. Teachers would eat their lunch with the students, continue the work through that, and eat together and work together like a working lunch in many cases. So I would navigate that 1,393, let's call it 1,400, could easily be 700, half of that would be a half hour, 700 hours to the full 14, somewhere in between. So we're talking over 700 hours of time spent in academic overtime collectively for our school. You could do the same with the rest of those numbers. In total, for all the academic, you know, and these are kids, we had AP boot camps. You know, if the AP test was coming up, our AP teachers would offer, okay, you know, AP government, we're going to meet on Wednesday and Thursday for the whole hour. Bring your lunch if you want. It's voluntary. If you want, we're going to go over some of the stuff that's going to be on the AP test. Those rooms were jammed. So this is for everybody. We opened our gym. The basketball court was full every day. You know, and those especially those 8th graders that are full of energy, that eat their lunch in about 8 seconds and then run around the whole cafeteria the rest of the time because they could use recess, they got it. They got a gym. And if their grades are good and they want to go play basketball, they can. And we're not going to babysit them. We're going to trust that they go and do it and get it done. And some of the data will show that they took us up on that. They got it done. And we do have checks and balances, obviously, with report cards and things and classroom grades to make sure that people are doing it right. So the enrichment piece and the social piece is the underlying part. Those are for the kids that take advantage of, put some examples of some stuff. There's about, I think there's 80 opportunities that the kids can choose from. The interesting thing that we found is that the teachers chose them at first because, you know, we're starting this out, so they chose what they wanted for their passion, whether it be an art portfolio work group or whether it be drone flying or anything in between. The kids started talking to the teachers and coming to see me and saying, can we start our own clubs if you give us a room and we'd like to do something? So I said, yeah, absolutely. You know, what do you want to do? I said, you got to come with a plan, convince me that it's something worthwhile, and if more kids want to show up and you got a, you know, an adult to kind of oversee it and kind of be around, you can roll with it. So I think we had at least, you know, 5 to 6 new clubs pop up, including a young Democratic club and a young Republican club. And we, those clubs were where kids just went and talked positive politics, ethical politics, what politics is, with the teacher kind of guiding them. And I thought that was very interesting because I was concerned when the kids first came to me with those ideas. But I shouldn't have been, because sometimes we can learn, and I think our nation's leaders and ourselves can learn what really good conversation about beliefs and about the democratic process is all about. So I was very proud of those kids that did that and did it very well. The other one was the American Sign Language. A couple of young ladies came in and saw me and were passionate about it, wanted to learn it, had a group of kids that wanted to learn it. They brought a teacher in to help them learn it, so they started meeting. Just, it just popped up. So these things are happening organically in our school, and it's starting to become student-led in a lot of categories. So that's anywhere from 600 to 1,300 hours of enrichment. Now, if you remind, we only took 1 minute per class learning time out of our schedule to get all these hours. That's it. So, if you recall, we took away take 5, we took a minute off passing time, we got very creative to gain all of this. And the results speak for themselves, I think. And I think that little note just mentions that our record keeping has got to get better. We didn't have the best methods, and we've got better ones now. So I think those are actually underreported there. So these are, survey data, but you're going to see some very clear trends. 94% approximately of students was helpful and improved their grades. Close to 99% found it beneficial, with about 73% extremely beneficial to them. Now, 84% of students felt less stressed. That's the most important. That's one of the big ones that really stuck out to me, because school can be a stressful place for people. You run by bells, you're going place to place to place, and then you got your after-school activities, you get your homework, you get your family, you get your job, and you're back at it again the next day. To give that little respite, that little time where it's not so structured. We did away with bells during that time. It's almost like a college atmosphere where kids just know where the options are. We post the schedules up on the big TV screens. They can get it on their phones each day. And it's amazing when you get rid of the bells that kids will be done eating. They'll see, okay, it's about halfway through. And little small groups of people will float to their next thing, and other kids are leaving. So it's almost like an open campus type of thing, and not like we see at bell time when 600 kids are moving at once. So that was impressive. So I can see where that calmed everybody down right in the middle of the day perfectly. And we were told by teachers anecdotally that last 2 blocks of the day were much calmer because kids were calmer. They had that time if they wanted to relax, they wanted to form a study group, they got their homework done. All those things were accomplished during that time. So what did the teachers think? Initially, when we surveyed the teachers about starting this, we had about a 93 to 94% approval, like, let's go for it. And I think my comment at the time was, if you can get 93, 94% of teachers to agree whether the sun's up or not, that's a big deal. I stand by that. I think that's with any group, right, of 100 people that agree on something. So to get 94%, very proud of it. Now it's up to 95%, in the somewhat and extremely is balanced, but overwhelmingly supported. And then 87%. You can see that what was interesting to me is the student survey mirrored the staff in most respects. And then the parents. That's a 95. Over 95% of the parents believe that it helped their child. 97% they were pleased or somewhat pleased about JOSM. You can't get much higher than that. And then again, look at how consistent this is with what the students said about the stress level. The parents report the reduction in child's stress level resulted. So I think that alone is a huge victory, let alone some of the grades I'll share with you. And that was one of the things we talked about when implementing this new idea, is that we wanted to decrease stress levels and anxiety in our students. So I won't spend too much more time on this, but I do want to show you what we did. Is we did last year's overall grades with this year's overall grades for the first point. And we broke it down by grades, and we did the percent change and then the percent increase. So you'll see in grade 8, I'll look at 47% more A's from this year. Is it all JOSM? Maybe not. But when we show you third and fourth quarter, you'll see it's consistent. These are nice to see positives across the board at any rate. But I think JOSM had a lot to do with that. Granted, it's new kids, it's a different year. So there's all that. I mean, you can pick apart anything. And, we didn't go looking for certain data to try to find the positives. This is how it rolls. And you'll see that there's some negatives down there that we had also that are good for us to catch to work on. So really good numbers, grade 11, 60%. Increases in grades across the board. Not a bad thing in 3 months. Now we look at our D's, and you can see the percentage of D's and F's also pretty much went down. A slight bump in grade 11 for F's, so something for us to say, what happened there, or why did that happen? But the trends are going the right way. The A's are going up, and the D's or F's are going down. The reason we didn't do B's and C's is because, when Bs goes up to As, the Bs decrease, and it gives you kind of a false read. So we wanted to focus on the high and the lows here of what we need to look at. And then this is fourth quarter comparisons from year to year. So we're looking at time of year. So we wanted last spring, how did we do compared to this spring with Joslyn and the time of year? Because sometimes you'll see a little dip when we get into the summer mode. And you'll see those numbers are all favorable with the A's. Here, interestingly enough, the juniors made it the biggest leap with over 50% more A's. So that's all good stuff. I think the students that are high achievers took advantage of that. And then the great news on the D's and F's is that they're continuing to decrease at big chunks. And the thing that obviously sticks out here is grade 9. Why are D's and F's increasing in grade 9 and nowhere else? So those are great questions for us to start digging in and looking at and focusing on. So that are very helpful there. So that's piqued our interest and will get certainly our focus for next year. Anybody have any questions so far? I've been going kind of rapid fire and there's a lot of stuff I've been throwing at you.
Ms. Richardson?
I just have a quick comment and question.
Sure.
I just love the links that you can go and get all the data.
Yeah.
I mean, because personally, that's the power, I think, to effective learning when you know what's going on.
Right.
And then you can go from there. And I do have just a quick story. I was clicking around on all those links and I came to the math one.
Yeah.
And I said, and then I saw geometry, so I just clicked on that. And I was looking at what the goals were supposed to be and whatnot, and it said I needed a password to get into that section.
Oh, okay.
So I just left it, that was all right. And the next day I got an email from Catherine or Katie or someone that said that I had to be let in. I didn't even know, I mean, I didn't ask, I just left it once I couldn't get in. She sent me an email and said Mrs. Hemian would be the only one that would allow me, would have. And she said, but I think she's on vacation this week.
Sure.
Several hours later, I get an email from Mrs. Hemian, give me the password that says I'm there.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
That's a good story. Yeah. And with Google Docs, I sometimes forget who the owner of a certain document is. Mary, as the department head, shared that with me, and I could open it because she shared it with me, but I didn't think ahead that if I share it with somebody else, she has to kind of allow that. So
But I was just
So I'm glad you got it.
impressed with how
Yeah.
quickly
yeah,
on the 4th of July week or whatever.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. And if anybody else has problems opening these links, please let me know. And it's probably something to do with rights or something. So it's an easy fix that we can take care of. But thank you for sharing that. And I think, I think it was a great idea by the school committee. I think Ms. Stout had brought it up about getting you the information in advance. I mean, what a difference, right? To have the opportunity to let this sink in because it's so rapid fire and it's all a lot of new stuff. And I hope that was helpful. And please, I do highly encourage you, if you're not bothering us, if you get that stuff a week or two in advance, and there's a lot of jargon there, there's a lot of data. If you need clarifying questions, just shoot me an email. And if I can't do it, I delegate it to Janie. So it's really easy. It's actually easy. See how wonderful she makes it look? Right, so.
Bill,
Oh, sorry,
I
Ms. Stone.
just had one quick question. I had like 30 questions before on little particular
Sure.
comments, but you answered all of them. What is Shark Cafe sessions?
Shark Cafe is lunch with the teacher, in essence, like a working lunch. So that's already predetermined. The teacher's going to stay that whole time, commit to the kids that time, bring their lunch. You can come in and eat. What we found with that one, it's kind of like kids get to go hang out with their favorite teacher, or go bring their friend group, go in and say, hey, let's go out, go over to Miss Hemian's class and work on some of our math homework tonight. Or we get a big test tomorrow, let's go bring our lunch. So it's kind of like a encouragement to bring your lunch with you, and you can stay as long as you want, or you can cut out halfway through.
Well, I'm impressed that there are so many different things for kids.
Right.
Like, I was initially impressed by extra help for the kids.
Right.
And I love to see how you're using the data for that, and that it's so effective, and then occasionally there's something that is unexplainable that you'll look at.
Right.
But it does look like it's suitable for so many kids. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, and I think we found the same, and we're gonna try to do a lot more of that, for next year moving forward, is to use the data. That's gonna, our big focus next year is to, the numbers don't lie, here they are, and, we like the good news, but these numbers are gonna need to be better, and certainly the yellow is where we'll be looking too. So, I had to put a little plug in here for our JOSM, and I don't know if you know Mr. Keenan, but I put a tweet out, I put in the Friday Focus that I'm looking for community members to come and be involved with our school council, and he called up and said I'd love to be part of it. I'm a former principal, and 2 of my sons graduated proudly from Howard High School, and I want to stay active, and and he, not only was a great contributor as a former educator, I guess once an educator, always an educator, getting his perspective as a former principal from the outside looking in, coming to our meetings. We'd often share emails, and so one day I said, it was like our first month, and I was a little nervous to bring the media in yet, or outsiders. I said, it's going great, but so he had emailed me and said, Bill, you brought up the school council that anybody from the council is welcome to come down and check out JOSM in real time. I'd like to do that. I said, awesome, when do you want to come down? And we set up a time, and he came down, and we walked. He stayed the whole hour, and all we did was walk around, and he talked to kids, he talked to teachers, he watched it with his own eyes. And this is what he sent me the next day, and I just thought it was impressive and powerful because I respect him, and he's been extremely helpful to me with some new ideas and thoughts, not just on this but other things. So from a credible source, I thought that was pretty cool, so I wanted to share that with you. The next area, supporting all students as learners. Interventions, this talks about, how are we helping, and this a lot has to do with our students with social, emotional needs. We had a student support team. It was okay last year, but we really put some structures and some processes and documented procedures in place to put some teeth to it, so that it was, when you have a child that you're concerned about, what do I do? Now we have a process. What are the first steps? When does it go before the team? What does the team do? How do they document? So that's really been powerful. I shared some of the forms that we didn't have that we do now have, and I know Ms. McGuire and a committee have worked really hard to come up with our district curriculum accommodation plan, or DCAP, and from that, because it's a comprehensive document, a really nice one-page cheat sheet, if you will, that will have each of our teachers put in their classrooms this year. It's a Tier 1 classroom instruction on just great teaching, and basically back to the philosophy of whatever it takes. You should have tried all these things before sending a kid down to student support team. These are all the things that we should be doing for all our kids. So that's going to be really helpful, and that was a great thing to have, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with our staff. The next part is provide supports for struggling learners by offering a new summer school opportunity. If you recall, when we started, we were sending our kids to Dennis Yarmouth, I believe. Cost or travel prohibited a lot of our kids from showing. Our attendance rate for summer school was abysmal. So kids were repeating everything and not getting the support. And we had no control over what was being taught over that summer school. It wasn't our staff, it wasn't our curriculum. So we had an ambitious goal last year, which we achieved, of starting a summer school. I provided you the good, bad, and the ugly of that report by our coordinator, things that went really well, things we need to improve on this year. We run 2 sessions already this year. In our first session, we have 17 students. We're using a new online modem. It's blended learning where the kids work individually at their own pace on computers, but they have a teacher in the room to support them and assist them if they need it. And what we found is that we also incorporated this into our school year, where we use an online platform of credit recovery as needed, because we have to be very careful that can't just assign kids, okay, do this online, because there's a lot of work to it, and there's not necessarily a teacher on the other end all the time. So we're very careful about that, but we did use it with a high success for multiple students to catch up. So we used it in the summer and during the school time. This summer school platform is pretty comprehensive. It's a lot more hours than typical summer school. So our concern was that we didn't want summer school to be, you fail for the year and then all the kids start talking, oh, I can just go to summer school for a week and get my B. No way. This is pretty long. They're there a few weeks. It's 3 or 4 hours a day. It's a grind. They've got to earn it. But like I said, we've got a good turnout. We work with the parents. We work financially with those who can afford it to supplement them, so that there's no reason why a student doesn't access our summer school if they need it to catch up. So we're happy with both those modems and implementing them into our school to support kids. Positive school culture. Summer reading program. I couldn't be more excited about this. It's really cool. Again, run by teachers. Miss Barnes, our English 8th grade English teacher, and Miss Wheaton, our librarian here, have kind of taken that and run with it. After my first year, I just remember getting a bunch of emails. We came to Chatham and Harwich came together, and teachers did what they normally did. The honors teachers were giving summer reading and summer work, and the Chatham teachers were doing it, Harwich teachers were doing it, and I was getting all these emails and calls from parents that were upset saying, is this summer or not? My kids got more work over the summer than they did during the fall. And when I finally didn't think about it, we reviewed it, and yeah, we were definitely, definitely didn't have a plan for that. We were given too much work over the summer. And when you force kids to read, my philosophy is you're gonna dissuade them from doing so. Choice is huge for kids, especially high school kids. So we wanted to make reading fun. The whole goal here is to make reading fun, have kids actually do it, enjoy it, and give them choice. But also involve our staff and our community in showing the kids that reading's fun. So I share with you the concept. The webpage is really cool. I suggest you check that link out. And basically the concept is that the kids get to choose a book. In the first year, the adults chose all the books and the kids picked them. Next year, we did a survey, and you'll see that all the steps that Rachel and Sarah took to improve this program. They did a survey for students, teachers, and they found out the kids wanted more choices of what books they could read. Makes sense? So we did it. And now we'll have more kids embracing it. So kids come back, they have a teacher leader that reads the book with them and comes back and leads a discussion or a book group. Real cool, fun. We get food. It's the whole last hour of the day, hour and a half, we'll be talking about the book. And it's just a nice low-pressure way to do it. We don't grade it, but we do check in on who does it or not. And our numbers already, the first year we did it, we had more kids reading books than we ever had in the past year. And this year it's already, the kids that have taken out books is already 100%. So the goal is that they all read it. So that's been pretty successful, so I suggest you check that out, and I get a visual for you in a minute here. So I'm reading Friday Night Lights, and my assistant Janie is on my flank there, my right halfback, and assistant principal Martin is my left halfback. So Miss Wheaton is having so much fun with this, she made promotional posters, because I couldn't pull this off. So this is, if you look out, they're taken down, but these were posters made, and a lot of teachers did it, the books they're reading, and made a kind of a spoof on it, and the kids got a real kick out of it, but it got everybody talking about the book and about what teacher was leading it, and so that was a nice, cool way to kind of promote that in our school and make sure that everyone was enjoying it. So the next one is safe, positive, respectful, supportive culture. You've heard me talk before on this, likely. To me, positive school culture is the foundation of great schools. I can't find a great school out there that doesn't have a strong culture. And we talk about what that means. It means that it's safe, right here, positive, respectful, supportive, challenging, and all those cool things that you need to spend a lot of work on. We spent the last 3 years on it, and I think we're in a real good place with it. This year, our overall theme is home away from home, because we talk about, you spend a lot of time at school, whether you're a staff member or a kid, right? We spend a lot of time here, and it becomes like a family. And just like families, you're not always going to get along with your brother or sister or parents, right? There's going to be some tough times, but you need someone to lean on. So that gives us our theory that every child here should have an adult that they can connect with and be able to confide and trust. That's really important to us. So we had this idea about focusing on that everyone here is important. Our visitors, our bus drivers, our staff, especially our kids. And so we had cards made up, and we put every student's picture on it, and we talked about, if you went around our school, you would see the trophies of all the championship teams, the pictures and accolades of all the award winners and A students and honor roll kids and AP students. What about those students that were getting straight D's and then went up to straight B's because they worked so hard? Where's their work? Hopefully it's on their fridge at home, if they still do that. But we didn't have it up in the school. We talked about that. What happens to that kid? That kid might have had more growth than a straight A student who just has it, right? You've seen those kids, straight A's, and they just coast through because they happen to have that capacity. But we wanted to reward every single kid and show them they were important. So we found the best way to do that. And we talked about that being our big refrigerator where everyone's work would be up there. So we got together as a staff, and we got those index cards out with the pictures on it, and we wrote one positive thing about every single kid in school. And we posted it up on the wall. We surprised the kids the next day. They were blown away. They were taking pictures of it. They were sending it home. So I kind of shared this last year, but we got some good press for it, which is kind of cool. But more importantly, it really brought our school together. You'll see the posters around the school. I find when it's successful, you'll start hearing kids use it, and staff use it in their lingo. I'll promote it all the time. You'll hear me talking about family and you're important all the time, because I believe in it. And I was at an interview for our team director for special education, and we had a student in there, and the candidate asked him, "What do you like about Monomoy? Or what's your feelings about Monomoy?" And he says, I can't put my finger on it. I just love it here. And he looked back at me and he said, "Right, Mr. Burke, everyone feels important here." And that, I almost got emotional. I still am. And just when a kid says that and is embracing that what you're doing and believing in your philosophy, we can move mountains. So I think that was real important. We're going to continue that theme next year. The next thing is a public relations committee. I was taught by a mentor superintendent once. The one weakness of schools is they don't do enough public relations. They let other people tell their story. And we were going to refuse to do that. We're going to tell our own story through social media, through Friday Focus. And a group of teachers and students are on this committee. They just said, you know what, we're doing a lot of good stuff here. We want to start telling people about it. And they started a committee. They had, during JOSM times, so this is how you start seeing the connections, they had over 100 students, a sixth of our school, as a focus group. All grades, it was volunteer, all different kids with abilities and academically or whatnot, different varieties. We didn't pick them, we just asked for volunteers, and we got 8 through 12, we got 100 of them. And they came in during JOSM, we asked them a set of questions. What do you like about the school? What's not going well? What can we do better? A couple of schools, we collected that data. This group will look at that and start installing things, implementing things that will help improve our school from the student voice. So that's the PR committee doing that work. They're also working with the town on a sign. I don't know if Scott knows about this. We're working on it. We'll make sure we get proper approvals. They were kind of bummed out that when and I go by, coming from Plymouth every day, I see this big Cape Cod Tech sign, the green sign on the highway, and there's nothing for Monomoy. And then when you get off down to our road, there's still nothing. At least when they were doing construction, they had the construction signs. You could tell you where Oak Street was. So the kids were annoyed by that. We got that from the focus group and the teachers. So they're working with the town right now to get a Monomoy Regional High School sign in between Queen and Oak Street. A nice sign there that will be appropriate and approved to kind of, this is our place, this is our home. So just a couple of examples of what that group's doing. The final thing is that we wanted to do a promotional video. We wanted to, the first thing that people do when they move to a district or are looking for school choices, they go on the website. They'll talk obviously to other people, but they're going to go on your website. And our website has been dramatically improved, which I'm happy to say, and it continues to do so. But if you go on our high school homepage, and that link has it, and I might end with this brief video, but a student created it. Ted Clifford, I want to give him credit. He interviewed me, interviewed multiple teachers. It's actually 3 videos in one, and it highlights all the great things happening at our school. So the first thing you see on our homepage for the high school webpage is that video. And it'll talk about, the first couple sentences that I talk about are the core values that we created collectively this year as a school. And then it gets into some more specifics of all the things we offer here. So in a 5-minute video, you can learn a lot about our school, something we never had, and I attribute that to volunteers in our school that did that. And then the college and university report was something we're very proud of. A parent once said to me last year, they were shopping around for schools, and they ultimately chose here. Their students shadowing for a day. And she said to me, Monomoy's the best kept secret around. And I said, what do you mean? And she says, wow, my son came here, he shadowed, he really enjoyed it, I love it. And she says, but I didn't know much about it, so that was telling me that we had to do a better job of promoting our brand and getting our word out there and letting people know. And I think word of mouth is the best advertisement, so I think over time that will take care of itself. But that really opened our eyes that we need to do that. So that's where that press release came from. But also this document of colleges and universities. So over the last 2 years, and my quote on that was, you can get there from here. And if you come to Monomoy, you can go to any college or university in the country. And we have proof. Just look at this document. So you'll see militaries represented, top universities and colleges, every single state university is represented. You name it, our kids have gone there. So I think when people start thinking about, well, what school do I want to this is just good data that now in year 3 we can start producing from Monomoy. I encourage you to check that link out. It's very powerful to see some of the universities and colleges and military academies that our kids are attending. Pretty impressive for a small school. And I'm going to conclude with unless I'll check with the chair. Do I have time for a 5-minute video, or is it?
You guys want to watch the video?
Have you watched it?
You guys have,
You haven't watched it?
let's watch the video. It's
Okay.
a good video.
Thank you. Just checking, can everybody hear that? Hello, I'm Bill Burkett, proud principal of Monomoy Regional High School, located in beautiful Howard, Massachusetts on Cape Cod. Our small school
Oh, Bill's bigger.
of approximately 600 students, grade 8 through 12, is our home away from home, where our core beliefs are focused on Monomoy family values. These values reflect critical thinking, curiosity, creativity, and risk-taking. We believe in rewarding perseverance and challenging ourselves so we may grow as learners and as people. We believe communication and collaboration is an integral part of engaging all our students, and we believe in a positive and loving environment where passion for learning is celebrated throughout our community. Monomoy High School is a place where our dedicated and committed faculty and staff take time to get to know you, make personal connections, build relationships one at a time, and create a unique learning experience like no other. Our school is a place of opportunity. We offer a robust and rigorous curriculum and program of studies with over 20 advanced placement options as well as independent study opportunities. We offer an extremely popular and successful internship program which allows our students authentic learning experiences in our community. We are also excited to offer our new Global Studies program, which will provide students the opportunity to reach beyond our traditional curriculum to make connections to the larger world. Students are able to select areas of concentration, conduct research, and participate in trips to other countries. A special Global Studies diploma will be awarded in addition to our traditional diploma, rewarding students on completion of the program. Our school also offers yearly trips around the world to allow all our students opportunities to make global connections. Our students learn in a state-of-the-art facility and benefit from our commitment to being a one-to-one school, in which each student is provided a Chromebook at no charge so that we may best prepare our students for the fast-paced technological world. Our recent move into the Cape and Islands League has allowed our athletic program to flourish with several league championships in our first year and new and exciting rivalries close to home. We offer 22 interscholastic sports and play on some of the most beautiful fields in the state. Our fine and performing arts program is considered one of the best around and continues to thrive with a record number of state accolades and an abundance of opportunities for student involvement. We also offer over 30 clubs to ensure there's a place for everyone to be actively involved and feel part of something. Our school family believes strongly in supporting the major transition to high school, specifically our incoming 8th graders. We have a dedicated administrator for grade 8 and have created a new 8th grade guidance position to work with our 8th grade students, teachers, and families so that each student feels welcome, supported, and connected. Our 8th grade teaming approach, unique to high school, allows students to share similar teachers and teachers' time to work with similar groups of students, colleagues, and families, ensuring strong communication, support, and outcomes. We also have an outstanding flex time program called Jossimo, a one-of-a-kind experience unique to our school. This program was teacher-initiated and student-approved. It is an hour-long opportunity in the middle of the day to offer individual support and additional learning opportunities for students, as well as enrichment opportunities. Example enrichment opportunities include gardening, music, appreciation, jam sessions, open gym, photography, drone flying, and so much more. The goal of Jossimo Hour is to establish a culture of high expectations, trust, and respect, while offering students the supports, opportunities, freedoms, and privileges inherent in all great schools. Being a Monomoy Shark and being part of the Monomoy High School family is fun, and I love it. Our school is only 3 years old, and yet we've created an environment in a small school setting where students have a voice, faculty and staff are invested, and all members of our school community feel important. We'd love to have you come and see it for yourself. We'd be happy to meet with you to discuss our great school, the wonderful people, and what makes being part of the Monomoy High School family so special.
It was well worth the 5 minutes.
Sorry. How do I get out of here?
For such a small school, we offer a
Isn't
lot
this
of-
two smaller videos? Okay, sorry. Okay, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your patience. I know it was long.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Burkhead? Ms. Wright?
Under the focus area curriculum, instruction, and assessment, is that information under evidence, is that posted on the website?
Which objectives?
Well, it's core values, learning expectations, and the learning expectations rubric.
No,
Is that
not
posted?
yet, because we're finishing up the rubric piece over the summer. And at that point, once it's approved by the staff, we can do that.
So these will be posted on the website online?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Burkhead? Ms. Russell?
Comment, Bill, thank you. My comment is to see your staff in this package. Your photo with your running backs. In a serious note, you have fulfilled in these quick 3 years what a quarterback should all be about. And in addition to that, you are the head cheerleader. And I'll give you credit for that. I've seen some creative ideas and some coordination with teachers, and I just have a sense that we're on the right road of building this to be a quality place to come and learn. So thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? I want to echo what Mr. Russell said, that it's just amazing what you have done over the past 3 years and the changes that have happened, just the positive, the way that you're looking for feedback from everyone. That it's not just coming from you, it's not coming from Mr. Carpenter, it's coming from your staff, it's coming from your students, it's coming from your parents. And I very much appreciate that you have that open mind and you're willing to try new things like the Dawson Hour. And I think it's a fabulous addition to our school. I think just looking at the offerings chart, good Lord.
Makes you want to be back at school again. That's what I say.
I mean, that
didn't have this in
spreadsheet
college.
was incredible. Just
Yeah.
all the different options that they had
Yeah.
in there, it's incredible. And
Yeah.
so kudos to you and your staff for coming
Pass
up with
along.
that.
Thank you.
And that's just, everybody working together, it just makes it that much better. So,
It's
thank you.
fun. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
everyone.
thank you very much. All right, next up on our agenda is the FY17 year-end information. Ms. Isernio, can you top the football picture?
That I cannot do. Katie Isernio, Business Manager. And I'm happy to be here tonight. Hard to believe what we're reporting on is the end of our 5th fiscal year. This is we've been in operation for 5 fiscal years now, and where'd the time go? I sent a lot of information, or Barbara sent to you in little dribs and drabs as we were wrapping up the year, and it's still kind of closing right up to the last warrants that were sent to you. So where we stand right now, it's an unaudited number. It's slightly changed from what I sent to you. What I sent to you was we had an unencumbered, unexpended balance of $15,236.93. I'm proud to say that unexpended, unencumbered balance right now is $30,832.15 as we're closing some purchase orders and we're able to wrap up, especially our utility bills, getting the final bills in. So for a $36 million budget, that's 0.04% is left unexpended. So that's, I don't know if anyone has any questions about that.
Any questions? Okay, check.
So that's the year in review, again, unaudited, and I want to just add that in addition to the changes of the website, there's a nice finance page now on the website that has all of the assessments to the towns, all of the audits, the E&D information. So I think that there's a lot of helpful information for anybody that wants to go on the finance page for the district to find out more exciting. I don't have a video to go with it.
Do you have the football picture?
No, I'll just, anyway. So that's that piece of it. So if you look, can I just move on to number 4?
So we'll move on to
Okay.
regional transportation transfer and vote for FY19 funds.
So as you recall, we created, the state gave the okay in FY16 for regional school districts to set up a revolving account for regional transportation. In the event that additional funds are given to the district, you don't have to return them or anything. You could put them into an account and use them to offset the next year's transportation assessment to the towns. So in FY15 is when the account was created, and we used in the FY17's budget $26,297 to offset the assessment to the 2 towns. In FY18, based on we had budgeted that we would receive $301,086 in regional transportation aid. In FY16, we actually received $381,598, so we'll be using $80,519 to offset FY18, and then with this year, we have another $88,819 to offset FY19. I'm not sure we ever took an official vote to use the $80,512 to offset 18's budget. So if we did, I'd rather do it a second time, and then we need to do the vote to use that. That money stays in the revolving account for the regional transportation. So then when we set the budget, we subtract that from what we assess the towns.
So we're looking for a motion. Anyone? Want to dive in? Mr. Duvall.
I move that we use the excess funds of $80,512 in the regional transportation assessment to offset the FY18 regional transportation assessment charged to the 2 towns.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. And then Mr. Duvall, I assume you're going to
I
continue?
move that we use the excess regional transportation reimbursement for FY17 of $88,819 to offset the FY19 regional transportation assessment that is charged to the 2 towns.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that is unanimous as well.
The difference with the regional transportation account that's different than our school choice or our circuit breaker account or, I'm trying to think of another, is that the statute says that you have to use it the next year. So it is not an account that you could build up a balance to, so we might have to modify if by any chance there was a reduction in the regional transportation, we might have to make an adjustment, but it's a little bit different than the other accounts.
May I ask a quick question for clarification? So it seems like over the past 3 years, we're always less budget than actual. Would it be wise to move up the budgeted or no? Or where does that budgeted number come from? If you could briefly explain.
Every year I have to complete what's known as the end-of-year report, and there's a Schedule 7. And Schedule 7 is when you communicate all of your transportation that you spend for in-district students who live 1.5 miles away from the schools.
Or more.
Or more, at a minimum of 1.5 miles. So what ends up happening is then every district, regional district submits it, and sometimes depending on the dollar amount, the percentage that we get reimbursed is higher because there's a pool of money for the state, so that's a moving target, the percentage of the reimbursement that we get. And then what we get later on is another payment that is for our homeless transportation, and that seems to be the one that adds the extra money, because we don't know going in necessarily who we will have that are homeless students. And if we have a student that moves here, and let's say they live in Wareham and Monomoy will share the costs, but you might have a year that you don't have any expenses that way. So it's usually that extra payment that we get, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, so then we move on to negative food service balances.
There is a negative balance of $5,378.37 that the general fund must cover, as the negative balances cannot be covered by the food service program. The vote needs to be taken to take money out of the general fund to cover that. We have sent out email alerts, we've reached out to families, and there will be, there are 23 families that make up the bulk of this. There's some families that's just, a couple of dollars here and there, that will be sending out this next week the certified letters requesting payment of the, we have to still try to collect these overdue balances. And I would just like to say, one of the biggest, it seems to me, the biggest challenge is, and we keep trying to get the word out, for many families, there is an automatic eligibility based on some, other services that are delivered to the families. But families do have to fill out, if they're not pre-qualified, they have to fill out the free and reduced lunch application. And what happens is your status stays as it was the prior year until October 1st. And then on October 1st, if you don't fill out the forms, you'll automatically go to full pay, even if you were reduced the year before. And families, I think, assume that since they were already reduced, there still will be. And then what ends up happening is a month or 6 weeks might go by that we're continually asking for families to please fill out the form. And if they do in fact are deemed eligible for reduced on a sliding scale, it does not go retroactive, it's just going forward. So whatever debt is generated during that period of time. So I know it's a challenge, but we also have an obligation to collect what we can.
Thank you. Minister Russell?
A comment, Katie, with our vote of, I think, last month, when we increased the food lunch programs per student purchase, we should anticipate this negative number to remain, if not get larger?
Hopefully not. We're trying everything we can, but that's a possibility.
Ms. Ryder?
What is the expectation of collecting some of this $5,378?
I was encouraged because we got a couple of payments before this came, and I actually received a couple of phone calls from people that want to figure out a payment plan, or for a couple of families, it's a little overwhelming number. All I can say is we're going to try. I hate being as a bill collector, but we will do what we can. And we'll be as flexible and as, we'll give somebody to 12th grade to pay it off if need be.
But there's some expectation is what I'm hearing from you.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Stout?
Before we instituted the program we now have that's more computer-based, and I understand that that helps us a great deal on data, what kind of deficits did we have?
Similar.
Very similar. Thank you.
Ms. Aul?
I question about the free and reduced lunch program and the forms. I mean, I know they come home in the first day of school packet. Have we identified any barriers to why they're not getting completed? Have we made any changes to try and expedite that and figure out, you know, why there is that period of time where they're not getting completed? Are they getting left at school? Is it a language barrier?
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, and as a matter of fact, at our last MAT meeting, we did talk about the Monomoy administrative team meeting, we did talk about this, and one of the principals said, you know, maybe we have a chunk of time that you say, you know, come to the school or come to the business office, you know, and somebody will be there very discreetly and help you fill out a form. I think that's the most important thing. Everybody's really willing and to want to help, especially the best, and not the best, but especially if somebody's eligible to be, especially reduced. The free, they're getting captured pretty quickly electronically through a program, but to get the reduced families, and we'll see what we can do.
I would assume that some of the conversation that you guys had at the MAT meeting was that the families that were eligible last year, maybe reach out to them in the beginning of the year. I mean, it just seems, you kind of expect if somebody was on the scale last year that they're going to be coming up, so maybe reaching out to them sooner than later, just to ask if they want to come in or something. I don't know.
Exactly. We're trying
That was just
whatever
my
we
first
can.
thought.
And I know the principals have met with families, you know, there's been a lot, and I know $5,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things with other school districts, it's a very good, it's not that bad, but it's still bad.
All right, so we are looking for a motion to cover said balance. Anyone? Mr. Duvall?
I move that we cover the negative balance in the food service program of $5,378.37 through funds from the general fund.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you.
And what we will, just to follow up, what we do is when the school year starts, whatever family, whatever child, they'll come in at a zero balance. They're not gonna walk in the first day and have a negative balance, because then it's a tough hole to get out of for some families.
All right, so then we move on to FY17 budget transfers.
In your packet, I provided transfers that we need to cover when on the summary page on the balance, the budget balance report. There were three cost centers, the 2,000s, the 4,000s, and the 9,000s that were in the minus. That
Can you assist us as to which, so the,
up at the top, it says final FY17 budget transfers for school committee approval. Those didn't make it?
not into the packet?
No.
Can we pause you and come back to you?
Yep, I could talk about the
Okay. We're going to pause on the budget transfers and move down to roof inspection, repair, and maintenance contracts. And we'll come back to the transfers.
I'm sorry that those weren't included. So one of the first things that Rick Travers, our facilities director, talked to me about when he came on board is his concern and his belief about really having tight contracts in place for a vendor to maintain the roofs, and to hopefully some small maintenance could help us prolong the life of many of these roofs. So we did a scope of service and we did a request for quotes and sent them out to 6 different vendors, requested the information, and we received quotes back from 4 vendors. And the lowest vendor that was responsive and responsible was Paul Cazalt and Sons Roofing Company. And this, we went out looking for 3 years with 2 alternate years. And what the services that they'll be providing is a full inspection, which will include photographs of all of the roofs. And then the maintenance, cleaning out gutters, downspouts, and doing repairs, which the repairs would be an additional cost, but we have a set rate for the repairs. And I think it's really exciting, and we want to get this in place so they can start doing some of the work over the summer. So what I would ask, please, is a vote to approve the awarding of the contract to the, I'm sorry, I've got all the information in front of me.
No, we have those.
Oh, you have those?
Mhm.
I got double of one and none of the other. To the Paul Cazalt and Sons.
Okay. Anybody care to make a motion regarding the roof inspection, repair, and maintenance contract, Mr. Duval?
I move that we accept the bid by Paul Cazalt and Sons for the roof maintenance and inspections at $95,450.
I would second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Questions, Ms. Ryder?
How did you determine which vendors would be sent a request for quote?
We advertised. So we had a couple of vendors that we have done some work for us, so we sent them out, and then we advertised, and then I got requests from vendors to send the quote request to them.
So you had 2 vendors request to send the information, yet they didn't respond? Number 2 and number 3?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yep. And sometimes because they're not quite sure what the scope of service is gonna be based on the advertisement, and then when they see, and also where, one of them was a little further away, where we are located.
Yeah, I only see one that I recognize. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that is unanimous as well. So we care to go back to the FY17 budget transfers that we now have in front of us.
And I apologize that these didn't come to you, they were sent, I don't know what happened. So there are 3 cost centers, as you know. Actually, there are 4 cost centers that are in the minus. One of them is in the minus by 45 cents, but I'm gonna let it go because it's under $1. But the 2000s, the 4000s, and the 9000s are the salary in the 2000s, the salaries in the 4000s, and then the tuition lines is significantly in the minus, charter and our school choice tuition line. We did, though, receive an additional $102,000 in revenue for the additional kids that are going to charter schools, so it nets out a little bit more positively. But these are the transfers that I need.
Do we need to read the full codes for each line? If someone chooses to make said motion?
I don't think so, but as long as you have the attached document.
Okay. Anybody care to dive in, Mr. DeVol?
Why, thank you so much.
I
Chair.
thought you would.
I move that we transfer from medical health services salaries, $28,564, psychological services, individual evaluations, SPED, $6,015.71, coaches basketball, $7,988, and Need Academy, $3,637.87, totaling $46,205.58. 2, substitute regular day, $34,564.24, and substitute regular day, $11,659.34, totaling $46,205.58.
Thank you. We continue all of them all at once? Keep going, Mr. Dahl.
Did, I move
Continue, you continue to move.
transfer from general supplies, special ed extended year, $4,395.80. And psychological services, individual evaluation sped, $5,400.02. 2, custodial services salary, $6,983.34. Building maintenance salaries, $2,741. Networking other supplies, $71.48 for a total of $9,795.82. And also that we transfer from building maintenance contract services, $35,869.90. Equipment maintenance other, $10,789.70. Maintenance of equipment other expense, $20,231.36. Heating at $389.38. Heating at $7,708.72. Heating at $8,193.15. Heating at $17,883.21. Technology other expense of $19,939.09. Maintenance of building other expense $11,351.82. Maintenance of buildings other expense $16,421.53. Athletic transportation $23,798.58. District info management contract services of $30,091.94. District info management other expense, $13,954.68. Legal services for the school committee, $21,836.33. Unemployment insurance, $31,078.79. Superintendent expense advertising, $6,127.82. And the Need Academy of $2,583.13, totaling $283,249.13. Transferred to tuition to charter schools of $114,153.56. School choice tuition of $169,095.57, totaling $283,249.13.
Amazing. Anybody care to second that motion?
Second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Ryder?
Just a question, we've already talked about the shortfall in the regular day substitutes accounts. Why do we have such a shortfall in the tuition to charter school and school choice tuition accounts?
Well, the problem is when we know the February before, so we just find out the February before the school year starts on who has been accepted and who's going to charter schools, where our budgets are starting our conversation in October. And as I said, with the charter schools, in addition, so we had the $114,000 in expenses beyond, but we also received, and I'll show you on the revenue page, an additional $102,000. There were additional school choice and kids that went out beyond what I had estimated. I missed the mark on that one. And there were 14 additional students that went out, that what I was basing my data on the trend of the prior 3 years, and we had additional students that went out.
That was my question, what you're basing the estimation on.
Yeah.
So next year, perhaps the estimation will be a little higher.
Yes, we're gonna have to make a slight adjustment, a budget transfer early on in the year, but going forward, I think it's also, the data we can get on the trends for school choice is much more in-depth on the DESE website too.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, so we have a motion carries with one abstention. Ms. Ryder.
And in your packets, the very, very last page, like it's in the, in your, your manila envelope. I slipped in because I realized that I didn't give you a revenue report. So here's the revenue report. As of June 30th, we have received $698,955.14 of additional revenues from when we built the budget. And we early on talked about, the biggest bulk of that is our increase in Chapter 70 money, and that was all part of our budget discussions with the towns, and that when we were using additional E&D to offset the next year's budget, because the governor's Chapter 70 money came out in July, like this time last year. So I just wanted to show you that we had some additional, and that's where you can see the additional charter reimbursements received as well.
Thank you for that. Any questions on that? All right, thank you, Ms. Isernier.
You're welcome.
All right, the last report and discussion is a strategic plan update.
So-
Mr. Carpenter.
So in your packets is a 50-some-odd page document that really summarizes the last 2 years under the strategic plan and a summary of what's been accomplished in each of the strategic initiatives. So there are 4 strategic objectives, and just to kind of bring some, make some connections here. When Bill was giving his presentation of the school improvement plan, and before that, when Principal Hine gave his and Principal Millen gave hers, the school improvement plans are each aligned to the strategic plan. So Bill talked about the 4, what was happening in his building under the 4 strategic objectives. So he talked about what's happening at the high school to develop engaging, appropriate, challenging, interdisciplinary curriculum, and talked about what was happening there, and then went on to talk about the second strategic objective, how they are strengthening at the high school, parent and community partnerships in support of student learning, then talked about what's happening under the third strategic objective of supporting learners of all ages in a supportive and safe environment, and then the final one was to create an inspiring, positive culture that promotes and celebrates achievement. So under those 4 strategic objectives, there are 19 different strategic initiatives. So each of the principals have talked about what's happening in their buildings as part of this. And when we next meet, Principal Wilson will be bringing up the middle school school improvement plan, and you'll see where the middle school is tying in here. But you can also read through this document. At the end of each strategic objective, there is a section, or there's a section in red that talks about what's happened to date under each one of those objectives. And then there's a section in blue that talks about what's needed to happen next to go and bring that strategic objective to fruition. In addition to that, there's the last section in blue talks about resources needed. What do we need to do? How much do we need to budget in FY19 or in an upcoming budget cycle to go and provide the resources to bring or to move that strategic objective forward? So just to also share with you some other dovetails. The last 4 days have been a pleasure for me, maybe not for the rest of the admin team. We've been locked in a conference room, literally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, talking about with 3 main focuses. One was to look at as we go into our next round of contract negotiations, what do we need to share with the school committee about our thoughts on what's needed for contract negotiations. And you'll see when reading through this document, there'll be things that have contractual impacts. For example, if you flip 2 pages and just look at the first strategic initiative, that talks about emphasizing close reading and writing from sources across all disciplines. What we found is that there's still need for more professional development time, and that I think that's often things that that schools struggle with. When do you go and have the time to go, bring the teachers together, to potentially bring in consultants to come up with, in this, the way this initiative is written, is to come up with these interdisciplinary units. When's the time going to happen for that? And we talk about in an ideal world that might require more professional development days. So a dovetail here is adding a professional development day means adding a day to a teacher's work year, which is something that happens through a negotiation process. So you'll see pieces here that deal with negotiations. One of the other things that we did over the last 4 days is each one of the principals went and presented their data. Just like Bill was presenting data on the JOSM hour, he also presented data on AP exams. The principals of the middle school and elementary schools were really showing and delving into the MAP assessment data. So you'll see in this just examples of where we are looking at that data and seeing, okay, when it comes to close reading and writing from sources, we note here that that grade 5 could use more time. There's the data is showing us that there's a need in grade 5 to spend more time on the on the ELA aspects here, and that we could use. So you'll see a little tie-in from the contract discussions we've had, tie-in from the data discussions that we've had, and then you will actually see many pieces of the school improvement plan progress that Principal Burkhead's talked about, that Principal Hines already talked about, and that Principal Millens talked about as you go through this document. So I will leave this with you. We printed it out at noon just before we went to lunch, and leave you this to go and read over, and we'll continue these discussions. One of the other things that we've started as a group is to start talking about, okay, if we can go and accomplish everything that's in blue here, we can close out and say, okay, we've accomplished this. Where do we need to start looking next? And that's really a conversation that we'll continue to have as we go into this next year, because this strategic plan is written to take us through this upcoming school year, but we need to start looking about, where do we head as a district, as a district next, and be having conversations as we go into next year on bringing in different stakeholders to be part of that visioning process too.
Any questions for Mr. Carpenter? Ms. Ryder?
Just, did we receive this ahead of time? I didn't see it online.
No, Mr. Carpenter just said that it was just finished up today at noon. He's giving it to us now to review, and I just requested that we have it posted online because it's now in our agenda packet and therefore a public document. And so
Right.
it will be posted online, and then we'll come back to it and we can have a discussion with it at the next meeting.
Okay,
But it's a very comprehensive
right, yeah,
document.
so it'll be on our agenda for the next meeting.
We can talk about that. I don't know for a fact because we don't have an agenda set for the next meeting yet.
We continue to talk about strategic plan. I expect to.
Okay,
have
well,
And I'm not saying this is gonna be done, I'm just saying that not necessarily at the next meeting, maybe not. It will be brought up again, yes, it's not going away. It's still our strategic plan for this upcoming school year. And the administrative team just spent a lot of time going through it.
yeah, I was just asking because I thought anything that was going to be on the agenda was going to be given ahead of time, that's all.
Well, it was just finished. It was a part of the administrative retreat that just occurred over the last 4 days. So this was all part of their discussions. It's given to us now, not necessarily for a discussion purpose, more as a report, and then we will discuss it at a later date. I'm just saying that not necessarily at our next meeting, because there's other things at play there. Ms. Richardson?
While we're on this subject, I think it's critical that we get this information beforehand. I heard that it was, the middle schools is going to be presenting whatever, and I would like that ahead of time, not presented to me at that time. I'd like to go through it prior to the presentation, so I just
The
want to,
middle school improvement plan.
yeah.
Yeah.
And any other reports that we get. It's not fair to just present that and expect us to come up with questions and understand without reading it ahead of time.
So I guess, Mr. Carpenter, the request is that don't give this to us at the meeting.
No,
Maybe provide it
I understand
tomorrow.
this report.
This isn't a presentation of it. This is just
Oh, I know.
sharing
Okay,
a
I
document for
misunderstood. I
discussion.
thought you were saying,
No.
you
I
don't
just
want
said while
this.
we're on the subject,
Okay.
I want future reports
Yes.
ahead of time, like the middle school.
Yes,
That's all.
okay. Ms. Ryder?
Actually, it does make sense what you were saying, that if there's going to be something on our agenda, we had already voted that it be presented to us ahead of time, so this perhaps should have been for the next agenda and presented before the next meeting. That, I think, would have made more sense, because
I understand what you're saying.
it's under our discussions.
And this isn't a presentation. Mr. Carpenter wasn't presenting this for a thorough presentation, because otherwise, I assume, as your normal MO is that you do a presentation on the computer. This is giving us this
And we'd be
very
here till
large
10.
document to digest and review and look over, and then we will be able to discuss it at a later date. So consider this kind of your 2-week introduction of getting, actually in this case, almost a month at least, prior to our next meeting for the discussion. That's kind of the way I looked at it, is that we're not discussing it, we're not having questions on it, it's just given to us to be able to review for a future meeting date.
I just thought, since it was under discussions, that's all.
Reports and discussions, so I guess I would consider this a report. Maybe we need to change it to say report and/or discussions. I don't know how to fix that. Mr. Russell?
I don't think it needs to be fixed. I'm pleased that we don't meet for another month. So for these women and men, for this past 4 days completing this project, I took it for what it is, a pass out that we'll have a whole 3 or 4 weeks to read it, review it, and be able to digest it prior to meeting again. So for the administrative team, I thank you for your efforts and print it out for us to have it now rather than a month from now.
I say bonus.
Ms. Stout?
A tangent to this is, on our agenda for the next meeting or two, we have a workshop. Would that be to develop our school committee goals?
That's going to be in the next 2 workshops. We actually have 2 workshops scheduled.
Okay, and is there anything on that agenda besides developing our school committee goals?
That is not an agenda that has been completed yet,
Okay.
being that it's a month and a month and a half away.
Because I would suggest that this is the strategic plan that we developed, that would be really appropriate to do within that period of time to develop an update or our goals.
Agree. Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Just, related to the workshops, I do think that, one of the things that we're prepared for in terms of our team is, we have developed a list of things that we should discuss with you in terms of upcoming contract negotiations, and that, I think, would be most appropriate for an executive session and not a public session workshop.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I wasn't very clear that there's conversations as to what's going to be happening at the workshops. The agendas for said workshops are not finalized.
I was just making a suggestion.
No, it's a great
for what to put
suggestion,
in
and
there.
it's kind of along the lines of what's already been talked about as
Thank
what's
you.
gonna happen at those, but those are not set yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on this report? All right, so we move to subcommittee reports, seeing none, I assume, sorry. Superintendent's report?
I've given it partially there, but the other thing I'd just like to share with the committee, we had a building committee meeting last week as we come closer and closer to project closeout, one of the things that we felt prudent on our end is to bring in, and I mentioned this before, an HVAC forensic consultant. There was a contract or a proposal put out. We had 3 entities bid on that and or provide bids, and the building committee awarded the contract to Horizon Engineering. They should have for us by the end of August a report on their recommendations on what we should be looking at for for ways that we can either fix, improve, extend the life of our electrical components in this building, mostly the HVAC system that's impacted, and so we're starting that process with Horizon Engineering. The other conversation that we had that I think is pertinent to conversations we've had here at the table is Ms. Isernio and I met with the bus company, Cape Destinations, just to emphasize our need to have those routes early to sort of help us inform start time conversations and just the planning that families will need. They have said that they should be able to have the draft of that routing ready for us for our next meeting, which is the August 10th meeting.
Great. Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, so we do have a couple of leftover action items. The first one is the Harwich Elementary School Improvement Plan, which was presented at our last meeting. Does anybody care to make a motion? Ms. Richardson?
I don't have a motion, I have some questions, since we didn't receive this report ahead of time.
The Harwich Elementary School Improvement Plan?
Yeah, it was presented, and for the first time, last time. I mean, I didn't have it before the presentation. And I just had a couple questions.
Last meeting?
Yeah, we have it, we have the report.
Right, that was presented to us before the meeting, last meeting.
Okay, then, can I just ask one quick question?
Of course.
The yellow marking through this, what are those all about? Yeah, the bubbles and the yellow lines.
Mr. Hine, could you come to the microphone?
I just wasn't when I tried to understand what they were in reference and reading it over, I was confused.
Sam Hine, Principal, Harwich Elementary School. On the 2016-18 original improvement plan that was presented last year, I had made little bubbles, learned how to put little voice boxes, I'm not sure what they're called, but with little notes about evidence to kind of expand on that goal. But what I'm having trouble with is depending on whether it's my technology limitations or the way it was loaded up, and I've got to talk to Joy Jordan this week while I'm here as to why that's not alive. You should be able to click on that and it opens up and it basically has 3, 4, 5 different little items that
would have been great.
That we shared, but
Those are the ones that you shared at the
Exactly.
meeting.
Okay. And just, can you tell me why it's highlighted in yellow? Why like words are highlighted? Is that?
because those were items that we had met or had some evidence towards completing. So it was basically like,
But that's vague. I mean, either met or some evidence. I mean, there's a big difference.
and I thought we had shared that at
Okay.
the overview. But there's also, if you scroll down on the webpage, the entire PowerPoint that we went through that was
Yeah.
basically explaining every one of the goals that we had met and with evidence towards that
Okay, but
in more details.
May I just clarify, is that the presentation that we received at the last meeting?
yes.
Okay, so that's,
uploaded 3 different times. I sent it to you 3 different times, 3 different ways
before the last meeting,
before the last meeting.
Okay.
because there was different,
It
there was an issue with the
There was an
links.
issue with the links, so it was
Oh,
sent
and
3
Miss-
times.
Miss
Okay.
Mary, I can't-
Well, I had probably all 3 times, I guess, because I'm a nanny.
Does that help your questions, or do you have,
Yeah, It does.
Thank you. So again, we're looking for a motion towards the Harwich Elementary School Improvement Plan.
I would move that we vote approval of the Harwich Elementary School Improvement Plan.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention, Ms. Richardson. So the motion
Abstain.
carries. Oh, excuse me, 2 abstentions, Ms. Ryder and Ms. Richardson. The motion still carries. Thank you. And the last action item that we have is a declaration of surplus equipment. And Mr. Duvall was going to be my go-to for said surplus equipment, but I can't make him go through all that again after doing all of those numbers. So would somebody like to volunteer, or do I get to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo for the surplus equipment? Don't all jump at once. Come on, really?
I'll do it.
Oh, Ms. Long, surplus equipment girl. Please. It's fun. I've done it for several years now.
Okay.
I'm ready to pass that on. Go.
Okay, I move the disposal of surplus materials estimated in the value under $5,000. 1, 2, 3, 4 desktop computers, SFF. 1,
Wait, Ms. Long.
oh,
Well,
Sorry.
Quantity's 30.
oh
31
God, there we
computers,
go,
26
thank you.
computers,
See,
16.
Steve, you're really the king here. 31 desktop computers, 20 of the DC 5100, 26 desktop computers, the DC 5700, 16 desktop computers, DC 5800, 9 desktop computers, Optiplex 745, 2 desktop computers, Optiplex 745, 2 desktop computers, Optiplex 330, 2 desktop computers, Dimension 4600, 6 desktop computer towers, Precision 490, 4 desktop computer towers, DX 2450 HP.
Can you just specify which school those are from?
Those are from the Monomoy Regional Middle School.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. Also from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 67 keyboards, HP, and 36 Dell keyboards. Also from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 28 flat-screen monitors, the L1706, 11 flat-screen monitors, L1710, 2 flat-screen monitors, L1730, and 3 flat-screen monitors, V193W. Also from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 9 netbooks Mini 100C, 21 netbooks Mini 100 HP, 3 laptop NX6310 HP, 2 laptop 6730s, 14 laptop side Lenovo, or no, S10E, there we go. 3 laptops D630 Dell, 2 laptops D530 Dell. And from the music room of the Harwich Elementary School, room 39, 1 upright piano, model number 162652, Hamilton. 1 electric organ, model number 20262, S8567, number 77. And 1 electronic keyboard, WK1800 Casio. And from the Monomoy Regional Middle School, 1 flatbed scanner, 4600, 1 flatbed scanner, 8920, 1 flatbed scanner, 9320, and 1 all-in-one PSC 500. And from the Harwich Elementary Cafe,
Ooh, that sounds so fancy.
50 light fixtures removed from Harwich Elementary School because they're obsolete.
And that was a fantastic.
And that would complete those.
Anybody care to second that?
Second.
Ooh, they're jumping at the seconds. Although, any questions or discussion on, yes, Ms. Ryder?
what will happen to this Baldwin piano? And do they have something else to use? This is, you know, I'm a little surprised, that's all.
One of the things that's really quite amazing in this district is how generous people have been in donating pianos. And we had, when we came together as a district, we had a plethora of pianos. So we have a better piano. What we're going to do, because with a lot of this stuff, I'm gonna put an ad in the paper, and I'm gonna list a lot of this stuff, because as we know, one man's trash is another man's treasure. But also, all of the flat screen monitors for the computers, those have a useful life. So we will offer it to the public and then see what happens from there. Exactly how we then dispose of it, I don't know. The light fixtures that we're taking down, I just want to give a little bit of kudos of the activity that's taking place over at the Howard Elementary School. We've been working with Cape Light Compact and Rise Engineering and replacing all of the light fixtures throughout the whole school to LED lights, and all of those have come down. They're the old fluorescent light stands, and those we'll be selling for scrap because it's all metal. So we'll be selling those.
Ms. Ryder?
Thank you. That's what I was looking for, what you're going to do to try and, you know, recycle or reuse them or something. Thank you. That was what I want to know.
Ms. Stout?
And that answered most of my questions too, but I just wondered if any of these things like computers or instruments might be good for some of our students who might not have something like that.
The computers those are non-functioning. So one of the things that is so impressive with our technology staff is they'll take apart and they'll use and extend the life of computers beyond what you think is possible. So many of these are also cleaning out, you know, when in doubt, people put things in closets, and now with the new Chromebook initiative and space being needed at the middle school, we need to free up some space. So some of this stuff is very obsolete, but I do think, you know, things like the flat screen monitor that somebody, you know, if it has a useful life, we will pass it on, of course.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that is unanimous. And just prior to adjourning, I just want to remind everybody that there will be no school committee meeting on July 27th. Our next regular school committee meeting will be on August 10th, and that meeting time is at 6 p.m. The goal is to have a shorter meeting and then our workshop to follow, and that same schedule will follow for the August 24th meeting. So we have an August 10th meeting at 6 p.m. and an August 24th meeting at 6 p.m. So just want to make sure that we're all aware of that and they're all aware of that. And I think that is all. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It is unanimous. Good night. Thank you. 8:45.